Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you all had a great weekend, and I wanted to talk about what we're expecting after the reset ends today or tomorrow for EU servers. But before we get into the video, I wanted to give a huge thanks to the community out there. You have supported me so far, and we're up to 54 subscribers now, and we're halfway through 100 subscribers, and about 450 away from getting that 500 subscriber mark. So if you like this video, continue showing me your support so that I can do more videos like these. So in this video, I'll be going over some of the things that we can expect to see once the servers are back up after the reset today or tomorrow after the reset in EU. So essentially, Blizzard are pushing a new build on the pre-patch live servers, which is essentially going to be a copy of what we've had up until the end of last week on beta. Now, these includes all sorts of class changes, it includes certain UI changes and fixes as well, and certain changes to the transmog system as well. So we're going to go over it one by one. I'm going to be putting chapters for this video so you can always skip to the most relevant chapter for yourself. And when it comes to talking about the class changes, I'm essentially just going to be doing like a quick summary of it and what it might potentially mean for you once you log into the pre-patch. But for a more detailed video on what exactly these changes were from last week, I've got another video on my channel which I'll link in the description and probably somewhere in this video, so you can go and check that out in more detail. Now, once you launch the game, the first thing you'll notice is that you'll be greeted with the Midnight Cinematic. And you'll also have the updated login screen with the updated login audio as well. And I have to say, while I did enjoy the purple login screen, I think this one with the whole Sunwell and everything looks a little bit better than what we had before this. Starting off with the UI updates. One of the first things you'll notice is that when you go into your transmog interface, there'll be a few fixes. The biggest change that you'll notice is that your transmog weapon can now override the existing or equipped weapon appearance. Earlier, what would happen is that if you had equipped like a one-handed weapon or something, but you wanted to transmog it to a polearm or a two-handed sword, you weren't able to do that because it just wasn't working. Well, Blizzard have finally fixed that, and now you'll be able to transmog your artifact appearance in all its glory. Another change that you'll notice on the pre-patch is the various updates to the nameplates, one of which is getting more emphasis or getting more real estate on your nameplates, which means that it'll be much more easier for you to tell which are the important casts that need to be interrupted. On top of this, there's also several improvements to the readability of buffs and debuffs, especially those which were critical to gameplay, and overall just a better experience with the in-game nameplates. Another thing that you'll notice is that there have been several improvements made to the in-game damage meters as well. This includes things like being able to see death recaps, and you'll also be able to see the damage taken breakdowns with clear annotations for whether that was avoidable or unavoidable damage taken. Now, is the in-game damage meter perfect? No. It still has a few gaps, but looking at the changes that they've been making to this, I'm pretty confident that over time we'll get to a state where we have everything that we need. On top of this, Blizzard have also made some changes to the boss timelines. This is essentially the in-game version of your DBM boss timelines or something similar, where you were able to see when bosses were casting certain important abilities. So earlier, this was only available to us as a timeline, and this could be set to either horizontal or vertical. But now, in addition, you can also customize it as bars. And this is something that we were used to with DBM in the past. You'll be able to do the same with the in-game boss timeline as well. On top of this, there's also a few improvements made to the raid frames. They've become a little bit more customizable and a little bit more healer friendly as well. So although this is not like a major improvement, you can see that Blizzard are moving in the right direction with this as well. You'll also see that aura tracking has been improved. While we had seen this happen some time ago on the beta, on the pre-patch, this is something that'll be going live with this reset. So I'm sure, like me, you'll appreciate these improvements as well. And on top of this, for you housing enthusiasts out there have been some updates made to the Endeavors UI as well, which means that you'll be better able to track some of your progress towards certain specific endeavors. And finally, although this is not something that's popularly used, Blizzard have made several improvements to the text-to-speech functionality as well. So these are all the changes you can expect to see with your UI. Next up, let's talk about the class changes. And although we've talked about the class changes last week, I just wanted to do like a quick recap of what these are. I won't go too much into detail and I won't be kind of reading line by line what exactly these changes are. Instead, what I'll be doing is I'll be giving like a summary of what's changed, what's not changed, and what could potentially change for your spec so that you can go and prepare to play your favorite spec. A lot of the guides on WoWHead and Icy Veins have either been already updated or are likely in the process of updating, but I expect that by the time the reset is live, you'll be able to pick up a new build for your favorite spec if, of course, anything has changed. Without further ado, let's get right into the class changes. Starting off with the Death Knights. Now, Death Knights basically saw a few changes to their Rider of the Apocalypse tree, and this had impacted both Frost and Unholy, although it was a slightly bigger impact for Unholy than for Frost, to the extent that Unholy is now looking to play Sand Lane, whereas for Frost, Rider still looks like the better performing hero talent, although that being said, I think Deathbringer can see some play as well. On top of this, you'll also be getting all of the damage buffs to Blood Death Knights, which means that Blood Death Knights can celebrate. Up until now, on pre-patch, they were sitting as one of the lowest damage dealing tanks, but after these buffs, I'm pretty sure you'll be wrecking those meters soon. Yeah, and I'm not just talking about the HPS meters, which you were already wrecking, but also the DPS meters as well. The new and shiny Devourer Demon Hunter spec will also be up to date with what we have on beta, although I'm pretty sure that some of the fixes, like the changes to Collapsing Star and how it works, were pushed to pre-patch before this, but I might be misremembering that. All in all, Devourer Demon Hunters will be in a much better position than they were before. For Druids, we expect to see the Rested Druid nerfs go live as well, although I don't think this is going to be changing anything, as Rested Druid still looks like it's going to be the better performing healers out of all of them. For Feral Druids, yeah, I'm talking to like the two feral druids out there. They'll also be seeing some damage buffs as well, so you guys can celebrate. Boomies will also see some improvements to their class, although again, I don't think that this is going to be changing a lot for them, but I do expect to see some improvements to their single target damage. The biggest change, however, will be coming to the Guardian Druids. Guardian Druids on pre-patch again has been one of the lowest damage dealing tanks, but with all of the buffs that we saw on beta over the last few weeks being rolled out on pre-patch as well, I expect Guardian Druids to be one of the highest damage dealing tanks on pre-patch. And this applies to both Elune's Chosen as well as Druid of the Claw. Evokers will also see their damage redistributed on the back of last week's changes, and although at first glance it looked like it was going to be a nerf, on further testing what we found out was that this was actually a single target buff, and their AoE damage has more or less remained unchanged as a result of the changes. What it has done though is that it's taken their damage from being more front loaded to be a bit more sustained during the duration of a fight, which is always a good thing, especially in keys. When it comes to hunters, all three specs saw a lot of changes. Talking first about survival, their Sentinel tree got a bunch of nerfs last week, but that said, it is by no means a weak spec because while Sentinel was nerfed, Pack Leader is there to pick up in its absence. Marksmanship hunters logging into pre-patch will also be happy to see that they've been buffed and are likely to be picking up the Dark Ranger talent tree. And finally, when it comes to Beast Mastery, I'm afraid, but you've only been nerfed, so you might want to reconsider playing Marksmanship Hunters if you haven't already. Mages can also expect to see some big changes to their playstyle. Starting off with Arcane Mage, while you were preferring Sun Fury up until last week, following the changes from last week, you'll now be preferring Spellslinger instead. On top of that, Arcane Mage is probably the most broken spec on beta right now, and now you can expect to see them do the same nutty damage on pre-patch as well. For Fire Mages, if you were upset about not being able to press Pyroblast before this, following all of the changes from last week, Pyroblast now hits a lot harder and it is definitely worth pressing now. Aside from that, there's nothing really to write home about, and for Mage, Frost and Arcane will continue to be the preferred specs. Speaking of Frost, Frost mages got some nerfs in the AoE department, but they saw some significant improvements to their single target damage, and you'll be able to see that once you log into the pre-patch as well. Coming to monks, there's really not a lot of detail to go into over here. Essentially, Brewmaster got a lot of damage buffs, so that'll be going onto the pre-patch as well, while Mistweaver can expect to see some HPS buffs on their end. And as for Windwalkers, they'll be happy to receive some damage buffs, although the fact that they're still target capped, I don't expect them to suddenly be like a meta spec or anything like that. Talking about Paladins next, again, there's really not much to talk about here. Probably the biggest buffs came to Holy Paladin, with buffs to their Holy Shock, Flash of Heal, and a couple of other abilities as well. When it comes to Red Paladins, they'll pretty much be in the same range of performance, and the same goes for Prot Paladin, meaning that their DPS numbers on the damage meters are still gonna look bonkers. Priests can also expect to be generally happy with their changes. While Shadow Priests had their baseline damage nerfed, they did receive buffs to individual spells and especially to Psychic Link, which now transfers more of your damage from single target to AoE, which means that you can expect to see a net positive gain in AoE scenarios. On top of this, both Discipline and Holy Priest receive some tuning to their healing. The long and short of it is that if you're a priest healer, Discipline Priest will definitely still be the better performing spec, but at the same time, Holy Priest won't be as far behind as it used to be. When it comes to rogues, we can expect to see the same bug fixes they had for Outlaw on beta last week to be translated onto the pre-patch servers as well, and with some additional tuning to the rest of their toolkit. Assassination, which got buffed last week, can expect to see improved numbers on the damage meters. Coming to Subtlety, unfortunately, we got slapped with some nerfs last week, which means that our damage is going to be going down. Talking about Shamans, Elemental got nerfed last week, which means that you can see a slight downtick in performance. Whereas for Enhancement, there haven't been a lot of changes, so Enhancement will continue to perform as is. The biggest change, however, came to Restoration Shaman in terms of how their Ascendance now works, which means that as a Restoration Shaman, you can expect to see some changes in your gameplay. Finally, coming to Warlocks, Warlocks saw some significant nerfs to their Soul Harvester hero talent in last week's tuning. This is going to have an impact on both Affliction and Demonology. That said, Demonology was already overperforming by a lot, and I don't expect Demonology to be going anywhere anytime soon. Destruction Warlock should also be happy because all of the buffs that were made to the Diabolist hero talent tree will now be live on the pre-patch as well. And finally, coming to the Warriors. I wish I could say that I was saving the best for the last, but unfortunately, it looks like I've saved the worst for the last. Warriors have been nerfed across all three specs, and although I don't expect to see any significant changes to the performance of Arms Warriors, I can't really say the same for Fury Warriors and Protection Warriors. Fury Warriors saw some significant nerfs to their Mountain Thane hero talent tree, and based on what I've seen on the beta, Fury Warriors are now switching to the Slayer talent tree. And when it comes to Protection Warriors, your damage has been nerfed significantly, and although you got a few survivability changes, I think most Prot Warriors are going to be upset about their damage nerfs. That's all the class changes that you can expect to see go live on the pre-patch today after the reset ends. Thanks for sticking around until the end of the video. You can always catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Rathios, and if you like my content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Your support means the world to me. See you next time. Until then, peace.